Be me, not a supermodel, not a millionaire. Have a decent job that pays the bills, a small circle of good friends, and a couple of hobbies to keep me sane. For the longest time, I was just focused on work and my own stuff. Dating wasn't a huge priority after a few duds here and there. You know how it is, a lot of effort for not much reward. But then, a friend of mine was having a birthday thing at a local brewery, dragged me out, said I needed to be more social, fine, whatever. I'll go for one drink. And that's where I met her. She was in her friends group, talking with my buddy. She was sharp, witty, and had this energy about her. Very confident. We ended up talking for most of the night. The conversation was actually good, not the usual boring small talk. She was passionate about her career, had strong opinions, and wasn't afraid to voice them. I found that attractive. It was a change of pace. One of the first things she mentioned was how much she valued her independence. Said she was a strong, independent woman, and she wasn't looking for a guy to complete her. I remember thinking, cool, I'm not looking to complete anyone either. We clicked, exchanged numbers. I figured why not. Went on a date a few days later, then another. The first month or so was pretty much perfect. The honeymoon phase, I guess. We had fun, laughed a lot, and seemed to be on the same page about most things. I'm the kind of person who, when I'm into someone, I show it. I'm not into playing games. If I like you, you'll know. And this is where the little cracks started to appear. They were so small at first, I barely noticed. It started with simple stuff. I'd send her a text in the morning, just a simple, "Morning, hope you have a great day." Something to let her know I was thinking of her. At first she'd reply with something nice back, but after a few weeks the replies got shorter. Sometimes just a "you too." Then sometimes no reply at all until hours later about something completely different. I didn't think much of it. People get busy. But then one evening, she brought it up. We were just watching a movie at her place. Out of nowhere, she says, "You know, you don't have to text me good morning every single day." I was a little taken aback. "Oh, okay, I just thought it was a nice thing to do." She explained that it felt like an obligation, like she had to report in. She said relationships that need constant validation are insecure. We're both adults with our own lives, she said. We don't need to be in constant contact. I thought it was a bit of a weird take on a simple nice text, but okay. Rule 1 established. Morning texts are needy. I stopped sending them. A week or two goes by. Another little thing pops up. I'd get home from work and I'd call her to see how her day was. Just a 5-minute chat. "How was your day? Anything interesting happen?" Standard boyfriend stuff, I thought. This also started to become an issue. I could feel her getting annoyed on the other end of the phone. Her answers would be one word. "Fine." "Okay." "Nothing." Then she'd turn it around on me. "Why do you always need a full report of my day? I was at work. It was work." I tried to explain I was just interested in her life. She said it felt like I was checking up on her, that she needed time to decompress after work, and my questions felt like an interrogation. She told me about emotional labor and how men expect women to manage their emotions and curiosity. It was the first time I heard that term. I was just asking how her Tuesday was. All right, fine. Rule 2, don't ask about her day. It's intrusive. So I stopped calling her after work. I figured I'd wait for her to reach out when she felt like talking. The pattern continued. I like planning things. I think it's fun to have things to look forward to. So I'd plan a weekend trip or book a table at a nice restaurant she mentioned wanting to try. I'd surprise her with it. Her reaction was always lukewarm, a very flat, "Oh, that's nice." She never seemed excited. One time, I planned a whole day out, a hike at a state park and a picnic. I got everything ready. All she had to do was show up. The whole time we were there, she seemed distant. On the way back, I finally asked if something was wrong. And then came the lecture. She explained that my constant planning made her feel like she had no agency in the relationship, that a strong woman likes to make her own choices, not just be carted around on some pre-planned schedule. "It's like you don't think I can plan things myself," she said. "Sometimes I just want to be spontaneous. Your planning feels controlling." I was genuinely confused. I thought I was being thoughtful. Apparently, I was being controlling. Rule 3. Planning dates is a form of toxic control. Got it. I stopped planning anything. I started just waiting for her to suggest what she wanted to do, which usually meant we ended up just sitting on her couch watching whatever she was already watching. Spontaneity at its finest. Things were starting to feel less like a relationship and more like a series of tests I was constantly failing. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Every normal relationship gesture was being pathologized into some form of masculine toxicity. Caring was neediness, interest was intrusion, planning was control, and the big one, the one that came up all the time, was jealousy. She hated jealous men. She would talk about it constantly. Her exes were all crazy jealous, apparently. They'd question where she was, who she was with. "It's the ultimate sign of a weak, insecure man," she'd say. And because of this, I made a huge effort to never, ever seem jealous. She'd go out for girls' night, and I'd just say, "Awesome, have a great time. Text me if you need anything." She'd mention some guy at work who was funny or smart. I'd just nod and say, "That's cool." I never asked questions. I never pried. I was determined to be the secure boyfriend she always said she wanted, the one who trusted her and gave her space. But it was a one-way street. If I was quiet for an evening, she'd ask if I was mad at her. If I took more than an hour to text back, she'd send a follow-up jerk message. I noticed the hypocrisy, but I didn't say anything. I was trying to be the good guy, the one who understood. The breaking point came after about 4 or 5 months of this. It wasn't one big explosion, but a slow, grinding process of me feeling more and more like a roommate than a boyfriend. The affection was conditional. The conversation was a minefield. I felt like my only job was to exist in her orbit, but not get too close, lest I disturb her with my gravitational pull of neediness. My friends started noticing. They'd ask how things were going, and I'd give them the vague, "it's good" answer, but they could tell something was off. One of my oldest friends, a guy I've known since we were kids, sat me down. "Dude, you seem miserable. You never want to hang out anymore. You always seem stressed." I kind of unloaded on him, told him about all the rules, the texting, the calls, the planning. He just looked at me and said, "Man, it sounds like she doesn't actually want a boyfriend. She wants an accessory she can put on a shelf until she feels like playing with it." That hit hard because it felt true. The final nail in the coffin of good guy Gary happened a few weeks later. I hadn't seen my main group of friends all together in months. Between my work schedule and trying to navigate my relationship, I'd let those connections slide. We finally planned a night to just go to a local bar, play some pool, and catch up. I was really looking forward to it. I told her about it a week in advance. "Hey, just so you know, I'm meeting up with the guys next Friday night. Haven't seen them in forever." Her response was a breezy, "Okay, cool, have fun." She seemed totally fine with it. Champion of independence and separate lives, remember? So Friday comes around, I get ready to head out. She asks what time I'll be home. I say, "Not sure, probably not super late. I'll text you when I'm heading back." She says, "Okay," and I leave. I get to the bar, meet my friends, and it's great. It felt so good to just laugh and not have to analyze every single word I said. I put my phone on silent and stick it in my pocket. I want to be present with my friends. We're there for a couple of hours. I'm in the middle of a game of pool when I feel my phone vibrating non-stop in my pocket. I figure it's a group chat or something. After the game, I pull it out to check the time, and my screen is just a wall of notifications, all from her. 6 missed calls, 15 text messages. They started out normal enough. "Hey, how's it going?" Then they got more and more frantic. "Are you getting my texts? Where are you? It's getting late. Who are you with exactly? Why aren't you answering me? This is really disrespectful." The last one was just, "Call me, now." I stared at the phone. I felt this cold, heavy feeling in my stomach. All those lectures about jealousy, intrusion, and needing space, all of it. It was all just a smokescreen. I showed the text to one of my friends. He just whistled and said, "Dude, run." I texted her back, "I'm with the guys, like I told you. My phone was on silent. I'll be home in a bit." Her reply was instant. "We need to talk when you get back." The fun was instantly sucked out of the night. I felt that familiar anxiety creeping back in. What did I do wrong this time? I said my goodbyes to my friends and got a ride home. The whole way, I was just replaying everything in my head. I walked into my apartment, and she was sitting on the couch in the dark. She had that look on her face, the one that meant I was in for another lecture, and boy was I. She let me have it, accused me of being shady and secretive, asked why I would ignore her calls and texts, said it was a huge red flag and that she felt like she couldn't trust me. I just stood there and listened. When she finally paused to take a breath, I spoke. My voice was dangerously calm. Let me get this straight. You, the woman who hates needy men, who needs her space, who can't stand being checked up on, are mad at me for not checking my phone while I was out with friends. The same night I told you about a week ago. The logic of it seemed to short-circuit her brain for a second. She stammered, That's not the point. The point is about respect. I asked her, is it respectful to demand I adhere to a set of rules that you yourself refuse to follow? She didn't have an answer, so she defaulted to the nuclear option. She looked at me, with tears welling up in her eyes, the strategic kind, and delivered the final blow. The problem, Gary, is that you've become distant. But tonight felt different. It felt like a test. Your constant neediness was exhausting, but this silence is worse. I can't be with a man who is so insecure that he has to play these kinds of games. I need a man who is secure in himself, who has his own life, but who also makes me feel like a priority. This hot and cold behavior is toxic. I just stood there. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't confused. I felt nothing. It was like a switch had been flipped in my head. All this time, I had been trying to contort myself into the shape of the perfect, non-toxic, secure man she claimed to want. I followed her ever-changing rulebook to the letter. I absorbed every criticism, every lecture, every little jab. And for what? To be called toxic and insecure anyway. I realized my friend was right. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a fan, an orbiter, someone to provide attention on command, but who would vanish the second she wanted her space. She wanted all the benefits of a relationship, the attention, the validation, the security, with none of the reciprocity. She wasn't a strong, independent woman. She was a black hole for attention, who draped herself in buzzwords to justify her hypocrisy. And, as I stood there in my own apartment, being lectured on my own supposed failings, I had a moment of pure, unadulterated clarity. I was done. I was done trying. I was done caring. But I wasn't going to have a big fight. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to break down. That's what she wanted. She wanted a reaction, proof that she had an effect on me. I was going to give her nothing. Better yet, I was going to give her exactly what she always said she wanted. In that moment, I made a decision. The experiment was about to begin. She was still looking at me, expecting an apology or an argument. I just gave a small, tired smile. You're right, I said. My voice was even. You've been very clear about what you want. You want space. You want a man who isn't needy. You want someone who isn't always asking things of you. I understand now. The look of relief on her face was immediate. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd finally programmed me correctly. I'm sorry, I continued. It won't happen again. You'll get all the space you need, I promise. She came over and gave me a hug. Thank you for finally understanding, she whispered. I just patted her on the back. It felt like hugging a stranger. She went home a little while later, completely satisfied that she had once again put me in my place and reinforced the rules of her perfect independent relationship. She had no idea what she had just unleashed. She thought she had won the battle, but she had just given me the perfect strategy to win the war. And I was going to follow her rules so perfectly. It would drive her insane. The nice guy was officially dead. He died on a Friday night, in the doorway of his own apartment. And the person who took his place was about to give her a masterclass in what independence really looks like. The next morning, I woke up, and the first thing I didn't do was reach for my phone. The old habit was there, the muscle memory to type out "good morning." I just ignored it. I got up, made coffee, and went about my Saturday. The silence was strange at first. It felt like I was forgetting something important. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was her. Hey, you're quiet today. I let the message sit for a while, went out, ran some errands I'd been putting off. About an hour later, I replied, Hey, just been busy this morning. Hope you're having a good weekend. That was it. No question, no invitation to talk more. A conversational dead end. Her reply came back instantly. You too, with a smiley face. She was happy. She thought the lesson had stuck. For the first week, it was like this. Blissful, from her perspective. She'd text me when she felt like it. I'd reply politely a while later. I didn't call her once. I didn't ask her about her job, her friends, her day. I was giving her exactly what she'd screamed for. Space. Acres of it. With all this new free time and mental energy, I started fixing my own life. I realized how much of my time had been dedicated to trying to anticipate her moods. It was exhausting. I called up those friends I ditched the other night. We made plans to go hiking the next weekend. Real plans. I started going to the gym in the mornings before work. I had energy again. I wasn't constantly drained from walking on eggshells. I felt lighter. After about 10 days of this new dynamic, the first signs of trouble appeared on her end. It was a Thursday night. I was at home, working on an old guitar I'd neglected for years. My phone rang. It was her. I let it go to voicemail. I was busy. I was decompressing. A minute later, a text came through. "Are you busy? Call me back." I finished what I was doing, cleaned up, then texted her back about half an hour later. "Hey, what's up?" Was just tied up with something. She called me immediately. I answered. Her voice was tense. "I was calling to see what you were doing. I haven't heard from you all day." I said, "Yeah, work was busy. Then I was just relaxing at home." There was a pause. She was waiting for me to ask about her day. I didn't. I just waited. "Well, okay," she finally said, sounding disappointed. "I guess I'll talk to you later." "Sounds good. Have a good night." And I hung up. This became the new pattern. She was now the one initiating 100% of the contact. I was always pleasant, always polite, but I was a brick wall. The weekend of the hiking trip came. I went with my friends, had an amazing time. It was a tough climb, but the view was worth it. We took a group picture at the summit. One of my friends had his sister with him. He posted the picture online later that day and tagged me. I didn't even think about it. An hour later, my phone buzzes. A text from her. It's a screenshot of the photo, followed by, "Looks like you had fun. Who's the girl next to you?" I looked at the message. The sheer, unadulterated hypocrisy of it. I, the man who was never allowed to even hint at a question about her social life, was now being interrogated over a group photo. My old self would have gotten defensive, would have over-explained. The new me just replied with facts. "Yeah, it was a great hike. That's Mark's sister. She's cool." I put my phone away. Her reply came through a few minutes later. "Oh, okay." She didn't like that. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to get angry, to say, "How dare you ask me that after all the lectures you gave me?" That would have started a fight, which would have become a dramatic makeup, which would have given her the attention she was starting to crave. I wasn't playing. The following week saw her behavior escalate. She started asking to hang out more. "I miss you," she'd text. "Let's do something this weekend." I'd reply, "Sure. What do you want to do?" I put all the planning on her, all the emotional labor. She hated it. She was terrible at it. Our dates became her asking me what I wanted to do, me saying, "I'm good with whatever," and us ending up doing nothing interesting. She complained that I wasn't contributing. I reminded her gently that she didn't like my controlling planning. She couldn't even argue with it. It was her own rule. Her texts became more frequent. She started sending morning texts. "Good morning, handsome." I'd reply hours later with "morning." She'd ask what I was doing for lunch, who I was eating with. It was a complete role reversal. She had become the person she claimed to despise. She was needy, she was clingy, and she was getting jealous. She started trying to bait me. "This guy at work, Brian, he keeps asking me out for drinks. It's so annoying, LOL." My response, "You should just tell him you're not interested if it bothers you." No anger, no jealousy, just a calm, logical solution. It was like throwing a bucket of water on her fire. She had no fuel to work with. The lack of attention was clearly getting to her. She was like a car running on fumes. The grand finale happened on a random Tuesday night. It had been about 2 months since the change. I was at the gym, finishing my workout. My phone was in my locker. When I got back to it, I had 3 missed calls and a string of texts. "Hey, what are you up to tonight?" 20 minutes later. "Are you getting my messages?" 10 minutes later. "Gary, seriously. This isn't funny." 5 minutes later. "I'm coming over." I sighed. I knew this was it, the final boss battle. I drove home, took my time, and walked into my apartment. She was already there, sitting on my couch. She had a key. She had been crying. Her face was red and splotchy. The second I walked in, she stood up. "Where were you?" she demanded. "At the gym," I said, putting my bag down. "For 3 hours, I've been trying to reach you. I don't take my phone onto the gym floor. You know that." And then the dam broke. All her frustration, her confusion, her starvation for attention just poured out of her. "What is wrong with you?" she yelled. "You've been acting like this for months. You're cold. You're distant. It's like you don't care about me at all anymore." I just stood there, letting her vent. I try to talk to you, and I get one-word answers. I try to see you, and you act like I'm a chore. You never ask about me. You never tell me anything. It's like living with a ghost. She was pacing back and forth now, tears streaming down her face. "Is this some kind of sick game? Are you trying to punish me for something? I don't understand. What happened to the man I fell in love with? The one who was sweet and attentive and actually cared how my day was?" She finally stopped, chest heaving, looking at me, expecting me to finally break, to yell, to cry, to do something. I took a calm breath. My voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "Nothing happened to him," I said. "You killed him." She stared at me, confused. "What are you talking about?" I decided to lay it all out, not with anger, but with the cold, hard receipts. "You said you hated needy men who texted you good morning, so I stopped." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You told me asking about your day was an interrogation and you needed to decompress, so I stopped asking." I took a step closer. "You told me my planning was controlling and a form of toxic masculinity that took away your agency, so I stopped planning anything." Her face was starting to pale. She was realizing what was happening. "You lectured me for hours about how much you despise jealousy, how it's the sign of a weak, insecure man. So I gave you absolute, unconditional trust and space." I looked her right in the eye. "I am not playing a game, Bernice. I am playing by your rules. I have given you exactly everything you told me you wanted in a man. I became the strong, secure, independent partner who gives you unlimited space. I built myself into the perfect man for you based on your own blueprints." I let that sink in for a moment. "And now you're standing in my apartment, crying, because you can't stand it. Because you are the one who is needy. You are the one who is jealous. You are the one who craves constant validation." I was done. The truth is, you never wanted an independent partner. You wanted a satellite. You wanted a man you could keep on a leash, let out to play when you were bored, and then yank back when he got too far away. You wanted my attention, but you resented the fact that you needed it. She just stood there, speechless. Her entire worldview, her entire self-image as this strong woman, had just been dismantled in front of her. She had nothing to say. There was no argument she could make. I had used her own words, her own ideology, against her. Checkmate. "We're done," I said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "I need you to leave my key on the counter and go." She started to cry again, this time for real. She tried to say something, to apologize, to bargain. "Please, Gary, I didn't mean it. I can change." "No," I said, my voice firm but not cruel. "I believe you meant every word. The problem is, you just didn't understand what those words would actually feel like in reality. Now you do." She finally accepted it. She slowly walked to the counter, took the key off her keychain, and placed it down. She gave me one last look, a mixture of heartbreak and humiliation. Then she walked out the door, and I closed it behind her. I stood there in the silence of my apartment. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. It's been maybe 6 months since that night. My life has honestly never been better. I'm in the best shape I've been in for years. I'm doing well at work. I see my friends all the time. I reclaimed the parts of myself I had sanded down to make her comfortable. A couple of weeks ago, a mutual friend mentioned her, said she's been on a dating app rampage, going on dates and complaining to everyone that she can't find a decent guy. Apparently, all men are either toxic possessive creeps or emotionally unavailable narcissists. She learned absolutely nothing. She wanted a strong, independent man with his own life. She found one. Turns out, his life just didn't have room for her in it. And now, mine doesn't either.